Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. You know, I'm not too disappointed with the outcome that came tonight, but I do want to know who told the others that I was speaking again. Well, anyways, my jokes aren't known to be so funny, but let me tell you about something that we all need to be in on. It's about being clueless. You know, it's one thing to be ignorant, where you just don't know about a topic, you don't know anything about it, and because you haven't been introduced to it. It's another thing to be unlearned, maybe not brushed up on something, or just not knowing all the intricacies of something else. But it's another thing to be categorized as being clueless. Now that's a category that you probably don't want others to consider you as being clueless. Let me give you an example. There was a man. He went to the lumber store to get some wood. Well, there's a driver and there's a man, and the driver said, "Go get some wood." He says, "Okay, I'll go get some wood." So he goes inside. He says, "I'm going to need some wood, please. I need about 20 pieces of it." And the guy looks at him at the counter. He says, "Well, we have many sizes, different types and sizes. What size do you need? We have 4x4s, 2x4s, 2x6s, and on and on." So, "Oh, let me check." So he goes out and asks the driver, "What size wood do we need?" He says, "Well, we need 2x4s. And the guy goes back into the store. He says, "We need 2x4s. And the guy says, "Well, how long do you need them?" And so he says, "Let me check." So he goes back out to the driver. He says, "How long do we need the wood?" And he tells him. And so he goes back to the counter. He says, "We're going to need the wood for a long time. We're building a house." and then another one where you don't want to be found clueless. Well, there's this lady, and she says, "You know, I'm tired of people thinking that I'm dumb. I'm going to color my hair so that people won't think that I'm dumb anymore." So she says, "How can I prove to people?" So she comes up to a farm, and she sees a farmer out there with a whole herd of sheep. And she says, "Oh, I know what I can do." And she goes up to the farmer and she says, "I bet if I can guess how many sheep you have here, would you give me one of them?" And he says, "Yeah, okay, sure, we could try this." And she says, "I bet you have 157 sheep." He says, "Wow, that's amazing. I'd never seen that before." "Yeah, you can have one." So she goes and picks one out. She takes it to the car, and the farmer goes up to the car, and he goes, "If I could tell you what color of hair you have, will you give me back my dog?" See, it's just clueless. It's not where you want to be. There are 3 ways that you could be less clueless. One thing is you can read about nonfiction, fiction book, read about history, current events. You could read newspapers and different things like that. You want to stimulate your mind. You want to get your imaginative juices flowing. And reading helps a lot. Another thing you could do, so you could be less clueless, is that you could learn one new word a day. You know, it doesn't have to be a complex word, such as sylvan, the base silva for forest. It's related to the woods or forested. Use it in a sentence. The lady was very picky. She wanted a house in a sylvan setting in Lake Oswego. Just learn a word a day. And even if you don't know common words, it'd be good to know them too. Let me give an example. There's this one man. He was going to go out. He says he goes out to this saw and chainsaw shop, you know, old-fashioned type, and he goes up and says, "I need this saw sharpened." And he says, "Yeah, we sharpen saws." And then he was going to take it back. He says, "What are you going to use this for?" He says, "Well, I have about a half a dozen trees to cut down. He says, oh, okay. Let me recommend to you a chainsaw. He says, a chainsaw? No, I'm not familiar with that. I just need a sharp saw. He says, no, a chainsaw is going to help you to do a job that would take you 5 days into 1 day. So he says, all right, I'll take it. So he goes out. This is in the morning, and next thing, 5 o'clock before the store closes, he comes back and he's just sweating and pouring with sweat and all dirty, and he says, this thing doesn't work for nothing. I haven't even chopped down one tree yet. And he says, you haven't? Here, let me see that. And so the owner, he primes it, he starts it up, and the guy says, what's that noise? You say, just a simple word a day will do. So another thing you do is you practice trivia. Practice trivia. Buy the Trivial Pursuit game. Or you can also watch Jeopardy! Great way to improve your trivia. Learn about industries. Learn about different hobbies. Learn about professions. Here's one profession that you should know about. And I'll tell it to you in a story. There's an attorney. He was driving home in his limo back from work, and he passes these two men. They're sitting in a field and they're eating grass. He tells the driver, says, go out and ask them what they're doing. And the driver asks him, says, well, we have no job, we have no food, and so we're eating grass here. The attorney says, I'll have none of that. Bring them in. And each one of them says, you know, we both have wife and kids. And the attorney says, oh, we'll get them all. We have plenty. I'll bring them home. We have plenty. And then they were driving home, and while they were driving home, he says, you know, we can't express our thankfulness for being so kind and generous to us. And the attorney says, oh, you're going to love my home. And the grass is about 2 feet tall. Fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, David.